welcome back to module number 3. This module, I divided the module into two sessions. One is introduction to JavaScript. The second session in this module is going to talk about the design, the graphic design that we can implement in our JavaScript or HTML in order for us to create something more meaningful and not just a standard website. So in this session, with regard to JavaScript, I'm going to talk about introduction to variables and introduction to condition statement. What is a condition statement? It is the use of if in order for us to convey or to apply another condition. So you will see that, you will learn about that, and I hope you will enjoy to implement an if condition in your script that you are writing for it. But I feel that I need to start again with regard to the JavaScript. And the idea here is that JavaScript is also embedded into the HTML. It does not stand alone. And it means that you need to declare that in your HTML. So it appears in two places. One is below the title of the page. You need to declare that you're going to run a script. And then in the body, you need to execute or to state the execution that you're going to do that. Otherwise, the JavaScript will not work. So the JavaScript has a lot of characteristics. It is case sensitive, it's object oriented, and it also produces the HTML. So basically, we have to know those characteristics in order for us to understand how the JavaScript works. The characteristic is with or without integer division. So the modules are percentage is not integer operator. So 5 divided by 2 yields 2.5. And if we're going to do 5.1 divided by 2.1, it will yield 2.42877. And so again, this is how we apply the characteristics of JavaScript when we are actually applying it. Example for that characteristics is that when you are purchasing something from Amazon, it consists of your purchase is being covered in JavaScript, so they will know exactly where you're standing with regard to percentage or where you're going, and they are using it as not as part of the integer, but they're part of the JavaScript that eventually will end up in your basket in order for it to be held. So the characteristics is also the idea of the scope rules of the variables, and it is also used as a string that are common type of data, and it allowed us to do array, and we will talk about array later on. So those are the topics that we are going to talk about JavaScript and how it will apply in order for us to understand. But the basic understanding of JavaScript is it is based on a object. Object is, for example, a window. Example, a document. Example, an image. It is physical object that we are trying to implement the JavaScript in order for us to produce something. So the object should be named, and this is really important. And the object has to have properties that act as a modifier. So example, the properties, example, document.background color, or example, document is the object, but the back color is the property of that object. The methods are the action applied to a particular object, example, document write. So again, the document is the object, the write is the methods. And when you are using the JavaScript on mouse over or on submit, this is the idea of the handler action that can change the image, or the on submit, the event handler that send the form. All of it part of how we apply or understand. Functions is also part of the JavaScript, and functions are named as a statement that perform a task. Example, do whatever, or statement, and the statement are here. So JavaScript has built-in functions that you can write your own. And values are a bit like of information. Values are type of number or a string or a boolean for true or false, or an object, a part of an image or a form or a function, validate or do whatever. So, and variables is the idea that a variable contains the use of an equal sign to specify the value. So example, variables are created and declaration use the verb command with or without internal value to it. So example, it can be empty, or it can, for example, say variable the month, var month, and it will declare what it is entail. Expression are command that assign value to the variables. So example, in our previous variable month equal May, and this is the expression that we are trying to do. But the expression always ends with a semicolon. Operator are used to handle the variable. Type of operator with example. Example, control operators such as if, or assigned, or a string operators. Expression, oh, this is the same thing, I will take it out, my mistake. And so let's see an example. A JavaScript, and I declare that, and JavaScript document.write. This is the first JavaScript page, and with the symbol line, it basically operates as your idea. So basically what you have here is the idea that this script is written above the body of the HTML, and it declares of it what it is, what it entails, and in this case is welcome to JavaScript programming. So in this case, this is what it will display, and it doesn't have the body or the need to have a repetition, as I said in the third slide, about the need to have that. But most script will have that in the head and in the body in order for it to operate. If you want to add some color to the text, again, the idea is you embedded the HTML, in this case H1, style, comma, and you're going to embed that into the script itself. So in case of you seeing the document right, second line, it is welcome to JavaScript, and it says programming, and it's embedded the H1, close the H1 in order for it to operate. So this is the result of it, and this is how it be done. So again, I try to make it more straightforward with again, this is the first JavaScript, HTML written inside the JavaScript, and that's how in this case is not on the page, it is a small windows. On mouse, window alert, say hello, and this is what it is. It has an event, and it allowed us to show that. So again, another example of the type and the value and how to embed that into the JavaScript. Next, the variables. And the variables are idea of storing information. Example, when you purchase something from Amazon, or you have a variables that add up all the items that you are trying to purchase in Amazon. The same goes, those items is basically the variables. So example, X and Y and Z are example of variables. They hold the following values. X is equal to 5, Y is equal to 6, so we can set up an HTML code to run this code, and it will look like this. Document get, element b load demo, and we are going to have enter HTML equal x plus y. So here we provide the plus as a sign to the two variables x and y, but we need to declare them in order for us to operate, in order for us to do that, and this is the end result. So the result will present in HTML in this example how it will end up equal to 11. In JavaScript, we also have identifiers. So what is identifiers? We need to provide each variable identify a unique name in order for it to have some ability to run the code and not run into a conflict with other variables. So you need to make sure that you are clear about what is the variables and what it is contain, and it has to be letters or digits or underscore and dollar signs. Name must begin with letters, and names also begin with dollar sign and underscore will not be used in this tutorial because it has a little bit more complex. But again, I want you to be cautious that if you will use the dollar sign or underscore, it might cause a problem. I recommend use letters, lowercase letters, and that will be the safest way to do that. The assign operator is equal 0. So example, x is equal x plus 5. So in JavaScript, it will make perfect sense. We assign the value of x plus 5 to x. So it calculate the value of x plus 5 and put the result into x. So the value of x is incremented by 5. I hope it makes sense. But also variables in JavaScript holds like 100 and text values like John Doe. So in programming, the text values are called string. In JavaScript, we can handle many topics of data, but for now, just think about number and string. And string is written as a single, double, or single quotes. Numbers are written without quotes. So if you are going to use John Doe, you need to put it in quotation. If you are quoting around the number, it will treat it as a text string. So in this case, variable pi equal 3.14. You see, I did not put any quotation. But if a variable person is John Doe, or if the answer is yes I am, I need to put quotation in order for us to make sure that we are consistent. And so in this case, this is what I embedded: variable person, variable answer, and in this case, this is what it will embed it. So the JavaScript variable, the strings are written in quotes and the numbers without quotes, and I want you to remember that. When you are creating a JavaScript variable, you have to be declaring a variable. For example, declare JavaScript with a verb is part of it. Variable car name. Or after the declaration, the variable is empty because it doesn't have a value. So you need to assign a value, for example, Volvo. That will make more meaningful to the JavaScript to be displayed and be able to run it as a code. So again, I declare the variable and I will use the demo to demonstrate the car name. This is how it will create, and it will display Volvo as I display you in this example. One statement, many variable. You can declare many variable in one statement, but when you do that, you need to separate them with a comma. So we can have John Doe, we can have car name Volvo, and we can have the price 200. So in this case, the variable are declared, and we can decide what will be displayed in our JavaScript. In this case, I decided I can have car name, but I can, example, change it to call the person or the price. It's up to you to decide how to do that. Redeclaring the JavaScript variable, if you redeclaring the JavaScript, you will not lose its value, and so the variable car name will have the value Volvo after the execution of those statements. And so this is the way for us to do that and how to apply the variables or redeclare the variables into it. I need to bring a bit math and statistics because this is my passion, and I'm sorry if you hate that, but this is what I do, and in this case algebra, and I can use that is in equals and plus. So the variable 5 plus 2 plus 3 is I gave it the variable x, I gave it values 5, 3, and 5, 2, and 3, and so I can display what is the value of x in this case and how to display that. So again, assigning values to variable and add them together, it's part of what we can do, and this can be fun. And again, I'm taking the example from Amazon. What they do basically, when you're starting shopping in Amazon, your cart is added values, and every time you add the value, it display, and then when you need to pay for all your purchases, basically they are running this small script and basically declaring all your X and Y purchases and declaring it, add all those together in order for us to display that. Operating with the statistics and algorithmic operating, this is what we usually do, and this is part of where we can apply, multiply, and do things like that. And again, this is part of the idea of how to operate with example percentage, and again idea of returning division ability into JavaScript, and the idea what is it entail. I'm going to skip a little bit about that, and I hope that you see it more important for your website. And when you think about, for example, in your final project, you're going to create a shop and you want to have some consistent adding up, JavaScript is the perfect language to use that in order for us to apply. Another element in JavaScript is the string, and the string stores a series of characters, so it can also be any text inside double or single quotation. And we can have the plus operator can be used to add the string. So when we use a string, it's called the operator in order for us to apply that. For example, text 1 is what a very, text 2 is nice day, and I can add text 1 and text 2, which will end up is what a nice day. And so how do I produce it? This is how I will use it in a very simple platform in JavaScript. I will declare what is my variable text 1 and 2. I will add document get element, and I will say demo, and I will display enter HTML, and I will add what I want it to add up, and it will display. So it will be what a very nice day. So variables in JavaScript have the same meaning as variable in mathematics or in statistics, but another name for a variable in JavaScript is identifier. So the variable in JavaScript may given representations connecting multiple characteristics when we use the comment var to represent type of data in the variable. So there is two types of data, string and numbers, and this is important because this is where we are going to apply it. And so now we are going to move to the if condition. In the language, we are often apply that if we are purchasing something from a shop, we need to have money in order for us to do that. This is an if condition. So the if condition is the idea of stating a conditions in order for you to do that. We have if statement, we have if else statement, we have else if, and we have if else statement, and we have the switch, which is probably the most difficult one. So the if condition is, we are trying to make a conditional statement in JavaScript. If the keywords is if always appear in lowercase, the condition else a logical true or false, and the condition is true, the statement will be execute. So an example in JavaScript, again, the idea of the operator increase the speed of the script, and I gave it the if condition. So I declare the variable basically empty. I gave it an if condition with some values, and I said if it is, show me what is the variable is. So it will be part of where I display my conditions in order for me to apply to it. In this case, it was empty. I gave the variable empty variables in order for it to operate, in order for it to write. The next level is the if else, an if condition statement, and we are going to create a statement, but we are going to state else. Else causes if the if condition you want to execute some statement if the condition is false. So in this case, if 3 smaller than 2, alert true, else alert false. So in this case, I will say display, or I'll write the script if 3 is smaller than 2, alert true, otherwise alert false. So the substitute of if else statement in this condition. So the if condition again allowed us to have multiple expression to one true value and execute a particular block of codes in order for us to do that. Next is the if and if else. And if is the idea that we are declaring a characteristics, in this case a capital A, and we will say if it's smaller than z, else if is lowercase a. If it's lowercase, we will declare that. And so this is the idea of if else condition execute in JavaScript. The next one is probably the hardest idea, and it is the switch. And the switch is the idea that allowed us to merge several tests into the same variable into a single block of statement. So again, this is what it will do. I will have the idea of declaring the variable first. I will promote plus enter a characteristic in lowercase, and I will say break the case A, val A, case E, lower level E, and default is not a val. And so this is the idea behind that, so I can measure correctly, or I can measure what the user put into the form in order for it to operate. We also need to talk about loops. Loops is in ongoing conditions until it met. It can continue and continue, and it's not highly recommended, but it can be done. For example, if the user did not submit the right username or password and he wants to get into the website, I can continue to loop and deny his access even though he tried to enter it again and again. So this is something that we need to be aware, and the looping is a statement like if and else statement. So I want you to be aware of it. And so, for example, for the for statement, we can use most familiar loops for the loop. Ability to have a sequence of statement and for a number of times controlled by the condition. The exchange determines how much has been added or from the counter variables. So in this case, I will counter equal 1, and counter smaller than 2, and counter plus plus. So the document write will be counter, and I will add another counter, and I will add plus, and I will leave those two empty. So it will display for me a sequence of numbers. So the output in this case will be 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, until he will reach 100 in this case. So this is the idea of loop statement in that regard. For an in statement, we can have determine the length of the object. So the statement begins with 0 as an internal value, and we can continue until it's been executed. So example, in a password or username, until he applied the correct username, then it will be executed. Otherwise, I will continue blocking the user. Otherwise, I will not let him in. So in this case, I use three ideas: name, age, and degree. And in this case, I will run it until it will continue running it. It will give us the first name Bill, then it will give us 25, and then he will give us masters. If you will run this code, you will see the execution of it, and you will be able to understand. Whilst the statement in condition is also part of the way for us to apply or to execute conditions. And the idea here is that you are managing inside the branches. And so in this case, I will try to show you that in the sense. So I wrote a script. It shows counter value 100 and the number list, and I will write the condition while the counter is smaller than 0, number list, and I will say number plus the counter plus, and I will break it counter 10. So it will display 100, 90, 80, 70, and I will say document write document list in order for it to execute, in order for it to be displayed. Do and while statement again is the idea of execute statement in a loop in the first idea of the execution of the loop, and it will ability to create a determination condition is placed at the bottom of the loop. So in this case, I declare x, y, and z. I will declare the list of the numbers. I will have then operate in x percentage 2, and if x is equal 0, then I will provide a condition to it, and I will add some value, while the execution basically is that x smaller than 10, and so new paragraph 1 is the document create p, and new variable new text is document create text node. The sum of even numbers between 0 to 10 is, and I will add the number plus y, and so because the y is equal 0, and the new paragraph, a child paragraph, I will say new text 1, and document body, and I will say new paragraph 1 in order for it to do that. So basically what I did was I will execute the idea of a loop into the calculation, and even the sum of numbers between 10 and 0 to 10, and the list of numbers, and basically the sum of even numbers between 0 to 10 is equal 30. So basically what I cover here is from our textbook chapter 2 and 3. I highly recommend that you will go over that. What you're going to do in your assignment is using the first variable using the JavaScript. The second assignment is to create a template that you like using a framework, and I will talk about that in my second presentation. So this is the assignment. I hope it makes sense. I hope that you will read chapter 2 and 3 in our textbook, and until next presentation that will come shortly. Thank you.